could you explain to us briefly what you think about Iceland standing vis-a-vis this directive of the deposit guarantee schemes?
Yeah, we are talking of a 94 directive. Actually, I was a rapporteur on another directive, which was the supervision of financial group. So I'm more aware of the problems who is in charge of supervisions, because we have two problems. In the 94 directive, the guarantee funds is clearly a private fund. That is, some private banks do what they want. If they fail, there is a private organization, which is a fund, so that their depositor has paid for their losses, a part of their losses.
Yeah.
And now, in the directive I was in charge of, which was a directive 6 years later, there was a discussion about who was in charge of the supervision, to see whether the guarantee was okay, whether the bank was not taking too much risks, etc. And what is the position of the British and Dutch governments is that that private debt of ISA is to be turned into a sovereign debt, not because it is written in the 94 directive, because nothing of that kind is written in there, but because somehow the state of Iceland is responsible, accountable for mistakes which are done in its territory.
Yes.
Well, this is totally contrary to the spirit of all the directives, 94, 2002 and all the directives onwards. First and foremost, the decision to transform a private debt into a sovereign debt could accrue only to a sovereign decision of a people. And that is true. That has been true from the revolution of the 18th century. A state cannot say to a citizen, your money, I take it because I want to lend it to somebody else.
Yes.
So there should be a law to do that. And there is no obligation of that kind, neither in the 94 directive, nor in the 2008.
So basically you say that...
Or 2002.
That Iceland is not responsible.
Second.
Okay, go ahead.
There's nothing of that kind. Now, about the responsibilities of a state. It is very clear in the 94 directive. The state is here to say to a bank, you have to be in a proper guarantee fund. And what happens if a bank has its headquarters outside EU? And the 94 directive is very clear, and my directive is also very clear. It is the responsibility of a home state to say, well, in your headquarter state, there is not a sufficient guarantee, so you have to participate into the fund of a local state, of the home state. Sorry, of the host state.
Host state, yes, yes.
The host state. So the government of the host state, that is the British and Dutch governments, should have said to the branches of ISA that your guarantee in Iceland is too weak, you have to belong to the British or the Dutch guarantee funds.
So you say the British...
And now that
the British and the
so
Dutch have
now,
failed. Yeah, yeah.
Of course, they failed.
Yeah.
So it is clearly the British and the Dutch governments who have to pay for the Dutch and the British depositors in the British branches and subsidiaries of iSave. And this is very clear in the 94 directive. If they don't agree with that, there is a system in Europe, which is the European Court of Justice, that will settle that problem. It is not their decision to say, we will use the anti-terrorist law to capture the belongings of Iceland citizens in Great Britain or in Great Britain. Unless they are pretending that Iceland is a terrorist state that is financing Al-Qaeda. But they have to prove it.
But tell me, so you think that in reality the responsibility lies more with the Dutch and the British than the Icelanders, the government?
Of course. The only guarantee that may exist, the only sovereign guarantee that may stem from a 94 directive is in the host, not the home, but the host state. And that becomes the general rule in the new generation of directives that is after 2000, such as my directive, directive about supervision of financial conglomerate. This new directive, this new generation of directives says, in a global situation, what do we do about banks whose home state, that is the place of the headquarters, is outside EU, while a majority of their deposits and their activity is in some country of EU. And the new directive says the supervisions belong to the place, the country where the major activity occurs.
Okay, but
it is in that case to Great Britain.
So we have to go back, do you think, and renegotiate the whole thing? The whole thing is, as it has been done, is not is worthless.
In my opinion, the strategy of the Dutch and British government was to avoid law. That is, they knew their position was extremely weak from the legal point of view of the EU, European Union, and they would lose in front of the European Court of Justice. So they just behaved like in Westerns or in Amazonian Brazilian Amazonia. That is, they use their strength in order to convert Ireland into Eastern into what is called in Spanish peones. A peon in Latin America is a peasant who is so poor that is turned into a quasi-slave of somebody that can lend him money, but he has always to pay back for his money. And for instance, what Britain imposed, or trying to impose to Islam, is I lend you that money, but you will have to pay me on generation and generations.
Yeah.
For instance, the very amount of interest between 2017 and 2024 will be already equivalent to half the debt which is accruing to ISAVE.
Yeah. Eva, Alan is, like you say, a member of the European Parliament, and he's involved in making these provisions, the directive.
He was the author of one of the directives.
Yes.
So we know them very well.
So when
I wanted to tell you a little story.
Yeah.
When I got interested in this problematic by going and meeting with Islamic people, I talked to Alain about it because I knew that he was very involved in all these directives, and he told me about this solution. And then together we wrote to the head of the monetary fund, to Mr. Strauss-Kahn. We made a mail telling him that the solution that the British wanted and the Dutch wanted was not a legal solution, and that we didn't understand how the monetary fund could act as an agent of recovery for some of the member states. And we sent it to his professional mail and we sent it to his personal mail. Well, he didn't answer us.
That's a